always value. And I know it says it takes a village to raise a child, but the reality of the situation that I believe that we're always somebody's child. And that we don't ever get to the point where we have arrived or we can't be taught or we can't learn or we can't change. I'm just of the belief that there is always an opportunity, but only if there's still value in that person, if there's something redemptive about that person. If you don't believe that there's any redemptive value in somebody, of course, throwing in the towel becomes the easier thing to do. See, I don't go in the towel with nobody because I remember that used to be me.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's why I have more empathy than most, because I remember when I was the kid who wouldn't listen. I remember I was the kid who started cussing in the second grade. Mm-hmm. And made everybody quit cussing by noon because I had won the cussing contest. I remember having the gift of gab and talking to grown people like I could be around them. But yet and still, I didn't have the wherewithal of understanding what it was. But there were people who, even though they felt like they were getting dumber, the more that they gave me, why do I remember it now?
Exactly, because they continued. Because they continue to pour into you. And here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to make it real short. They fought through their frustration. They were frustrated with you for the moment, but they saw that you had value. And so they fought through their frustration and continued to pour into you. And so while my mother said, you know, the more I teach you, the dumber I get, she continued to pour into me even to this day because she sees my value.
I think the other thing is, man, our family came up in a agrarian time, right? They understood the concept of agriculture, right? Mm-hmm. And you plant the seed, right? And then you tend to it, right? And that's a process. Right. But then when we moved from, I mean, you know, you got to what? Fertilizer, well, you know, that was natural fertilizer, right? Water it, give it some sun, and then you had to weed it, right?
That's right.
There you go.
And so I think that's kind of how they looked at raising children. It was a process, right? You got to do hard work, right? If you want to see the fruits of that plant, right, and bear the benefits of that plant, you got to put some time into it. But then when we shift to an industrial and now a technological, right, mindset, it's like in industrial, like you just do the work and then the output will take place. And in the technological framework, you just put the input in, push some buttons, and then it comes out, right? There's not a lot of hard work. And people make this argument, but it's different from the mindset that our family had coming from the South.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But speaking about the technological mindset, if you put stupid in, you get stupid out.
And that's exactly right. As soon as you input stupidity is liable to come out somewhere in them ones and zeros. You putting in that code. And with that, y'all, we're gonna take our next break. You're listening to The Front Porch. We'll be right back, y'all.
My grandma always says everyone counts, and everyone who lives with us is special. Like my aunt, who took me on my first bus ride to the library, or my older cousin, who walked me to my first day of school, even my mom's friend and her baby who live with us.
The census informs funding for schools, roads, healthcare, and more. So count everyone in your home, including all children on the 2020 census. It's your chance to help them for the next 10 years. You can respond online, by phone, or by mail. Shape your future. Start here. Learn more at 2020census.gov.
And we're back, y'all. So we've been talking a little bit about hindsight and insight around this idea from this community proverb that came from Mother Jones when she said, the more I teach you, the dumber I get. And so as we talk about it from the standpoint of where we were and where we are now it's time for us to cast our net further in front of us. What is foresight telling us today about this proverb and the necessity for us not to throw in the towel on an entire generation because they hard-headed? Come on, Todd, we'll start with you.
Well, I just think, you know, if you go with what you were saying, they hard-headed, right? It's like cracking a nut, right? You got to keep what? Whacking at it, right? You got to keep whacking at it. You got to keep squeezing it, right? Keep hitting it on the ground, right? And then eventually you'll get that what's inside that's of value, right? And so I just think, you know, irregardless of how people respond to us during this time and age, and we can focus on young people for a short period of time, that inside of that lies what? That the beauty, right? The redemptive quality that is so deserving of us continuing to be persistent in trying to draw out the best in them.
Yeah. That's rich, man.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say, I think, you know, as I reflect on the saying, and I want to make sure that I continue to repeat this, that it was made out of frustration, right? And recognizing that, you know, this whole child rearing process is not linear, right? You don't, you know, add this, and you all of a sudden get that. You know, there will be some bumps in the road. There will be some twists and some turns along the way. And for parents and for people who are in the village who are caring for and rearing these young people, there will be some frustrating times, but that is not a reason or an explanation for giving up. And so just want to make sure that, you know, people know that when my mother said, the more I teach you, the dumber I get, that comment was made out of frustration. And that was a proverb that I still remember to this day because she said it so often. And I made her, there were times when I disappointed her, when I made her angry, and there were times when she was frustrated with me, but she didn't give up on me.
That's good.
You know what I think about that is a village is a community, and in a community you take kind of ownership of everything that's in that community, because this is our village, these are our people, and you know, you don't, as far as a younger generation is concerned, you don't want them to fall for the same things that you did, to learn from your experiences and to build upon it so that they'll have something else new to teach the next generation down there, and the whole village grows and grows from that. And you know, that's what I would say for the foresight.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, for me, the foresight is that we have to recognize that if we truly going to accept life for what it is, we have to take it in its totality, right? We literally, sometimes we talk about the good old days because we forget about the bad times that was in the midst of the good old days. There were days that weren't good at all. They were actually terrible. It's just that we like to have selective memory. So for me, in my foresight, I want to learn to do the same thing that I do when I talk about the past. I want to have selective memory. I want to remember the good redemptive qualities of somebody and forget about all the bad stuff that may be true and may be really, really right in front of my face. I want to be able to look beyond somebody's faults and see their needs. I want to be able to see someone for what they really are. I really, really want to recognize that, yes, sometimes people are not going to listen to you. Sometimes people are going to turn down good information because they think they got better understanding right now. There are going to be times when no one is going to really want to hear what you have to say. Yet I wake up tomorrow morning and I somehow have the ability to forget what yesterday had to offer, and I'm willing to be the village idiot again today to get something to you that could help spark change or really bring it about in your life. See, that's the foresight that I want to be able to do. I want to be able to have what my grandparents and my great-grandparents had. They had the ability to look beyond what folk was doing and love them anyhow. And I love how you said that, Sylvester. It was born out of their frustration, but they didn't allow their frustration to keep them from doing right. Now, all we got to do is block you on Facebook. All we have to do is unfriend you, and we think that we have no more responsibility towards you. But that's a lie. We still have responsibility. If you're going to try to do good, you have to do good to somebody who you really don't want to. I'm reminded of that verse that says something about loving your enemy. And sometimes those that are the closest to you could be the most enemy that you might have, but you got to love them anyhow. And somehow I want to be able to have the ability to do that. And I know that don't come from a place, for me, that comes from generational prayers, because I believe I'm walking in some right now. That there were people who were praying for me when I wouldn't even pray for myself.
So I think about, man, when you hit the prayer, right? In our church, I grew up in a sanctified church, right? They had a prayer altar, right? But they also had a prayer box where you can write a prayer on a note and put it in that box. And man, I had the privilege one year when I was helping to clean the church out, we opened the prayer box and went through all, man, the prayer